Hey there, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. My name is Angel, and I like all things that are mysterious. So, we're going to get back into some crime because it's been a little while. And we're going to talk about the Duvall brothers. I don't know if you've ever heard about them. Um, this story comes from the True Crime Solved 27 Solved Cold Cases that Bring Closure to Disturbing Crimes by M. Moore. Michigan's population is mainly clustered in the lower half of the state, as the vast, sparsely inhabited forests are known. Up north is home to a few. Often, rough and gritty people scrape out a living, or at least try to now and then. The northern reaches of the state, especially the Upper Peninsula, are places you can go to get away, even disappear. This is precisely what happened to David Tile and Brian Ogjon. I know I said them wrong. And I swore I was gonna look it up and I was gonna find out how to pronounce them, and then I had to work. And then, my car doesn't want to start, and I it's been a rough week, so I didn't look it up how to pronounce their names. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry because it's been a rough week for me and I get this break. So, one little thing, I didn't look up how to pronounce their names, but it's been a rough week. So, anyways, remember what I said. It's been pretty rough for me, and I'm doing this to get out of my own fucking head and out of my own life and into something that could, it just shows me that there's shit out there that's worse than what I'm going through, right? That's what I'm here for. So, I'm just gonna not say their last, well, Tile, I'm pretty sure I said that one right. But I'm just gonna call them by their first names only. I'm not gonna pronounce their last names because I'm not gonna keep going back into it. Like, I feel bad that I don't know how to say their names because of what happens throughout the story, but circumstances, right? I just need to get out of my own head. So let's get out of my head and get into this story. So David and Brian were from somewhere other than up north. They had grown up in Detroit and had been best friends since joining Boy Scouts in grade school. The pair loved the outdoors but needed to be more avid hunters. However, like many other men, the opening day of deer season in the state of Michigan was an opportunity to get out of work and get away from significant others. Whether the men planned to go into the woods and stalk a buck wasn't a concern. They simply hoped to have a good time. David kissed his partner goodbye and headed out the door on November 22nd, 1985, then went to St. Clair Shores to pick up Brian. Brian cashed a $50 check, and they were on their way in David's 1980 black Ford Bronco. Ah, dude, Broncos. I haven't seen a Bronco in forever. They used to be so popular back in like the 90s. I swear. I knew lots of people that had Broncos, and now you just don't see them no more. What happened to them? Just saying. Anyways, the men had a few options. David had a family cabin in White Cloud, Michigan, and Brian had a hunting lodge up north. The plan was that they would head to David's family cabin in White Cloud. However, the men first traveled to the home of a longtime friend in Mio, Michigan, 150 miles east of White Cloud. The last night they were seen, witnesses reported them at a bar called Linker's Lost Lodge in Mio. It's a tongue twister. Both men seemed to be drunk and engaging in lewd behavior after being cut off at another bar down the street. I feel like, if you have a neighbor bar, you'd call each other and be like, hey, just a heads up, there's a couple jackasses heading your way. Maybe you shouldn't let them in. Just saying. That's what I would do. I don't want to deal with shit. I already said. That's what I'm doing this for. To not have to deal with shit. Anyways. So, back to the story. Let's see. Barbara Barbara was there celebrating with her girlfriends. Brian walked by and grabbed her butt. David rubbed against her as she bent over the pool table with her cue to take a shot. I would have beat his ass with it. Don't play. Don't play. I don't. No. Mm-mm. Absolutely not. Barbara was affronted, telling her friends that the men needed to get their asses kicked. No shit. Sometime later, JR and Coco Duvall showed up. The brothers told Barbara not to worry, they would handle it. To most, it seemed like the Hunters and the Duvalls knew each other. One person said they had been in a brawl earlier at another bar. Someone else claimed the men fought in the woods a few days prior over the rightful owner of a deer kill. Regardless, the Duvall brothers put an end to the ongoing feud. Raymond Jr., or JR, and Donald D. Coco, I don't know how they got Coco though. I understand the JR thing. I mean, they literally got it JR, not Junior, because they have the period between it. So, anyways, I get that one, but I don't understand Coco. Anyways, Donald D. Coco Duvall were brothers living in the Mio area. Everyone knew about the Duvalls. The rough and gruff clan spread across the north. The family was criminally inclined, causing them to keep to themselves in the secluded woods of Michigan. JR and Coco followed in their relatives' footsteps, living part-time in Monroe County on the Ohio border when they weren't in run-down trailers in Mio. The Duvall family was extensive and also tight-lipped. They didn't share one another's business, whether out of fear or loyalty. This is why, when the police came asking questions about the brothers' encounter with Brian and David at the bar, no one said a word. JR and Coco were basically the worst of the bunch. Heavy drinkers and wife beaters who had a fondness for weapons. Wife beaters. Oh, I already see where this is going. The brothers also had a saying, pigs gotta eat too. I see where this is going. They were also known for having a flock of carnivorous hogs who would eat anything in sight. Why did I don't understand. I said it right, but I stalled. More often than not, pigs gotta eat too was said as a threat. Warning friends and family not to say a word to the police. Rumor had it that chopping up cars to evade criminal convictions wasn't the only thing the brothers were good at. Cutting up and hiding from the law. A few years after David and Brian's disappearance, the Duvall clan was gathered at a Wixom bar. I don't think I said that one right either. Rough week. Car problems. Heavily under the influence, the men bragged about how they had taken care of the hunters and then fed them to the pigs. I just, this is why there was that, viewer discretion advised thing, because I can already tell, right? The media would air the cold case on its anniversary every year, and police would get hundreds of tips. Many of them were dead ends. Unfortunately, word of mouth wasn't strong enough evidence to convict JR and Coco of killing these men. Investigators searched the woods, lakes, and ponds up north tirelessly. They used helicopters, cadaver dogs, and ground-penetrating radar. Brian and David's bodies were never recovered. Nor was their Bronco. Oh yeah, I almost forgot about the Bronco. I made a big deal about it. I forgot about it. Year after year, there was little progress on the case. Investigators weren't sitting idle, however. They were working on Barbara, who was too afraid to tell police what she saw that night for years. Barbara lived down the road from the Linkers' Lost Lodge. She told police that after being assaulted by Brian and David, she went back home where she started watching a movie. A loud pinging noise interrupted the show. Wait, I thought she was watching a movie. Okay, anyways. And Barbara went outside to investigate. In a snowy field, the Broncos' headlights illuminated a brutal scene. We're going to put a disclaimer already because yeah. The Duvalls and a few other men stood around the hunters. The source of the pinging noise was a metal bat held by Coco, bouncing off David's body. A final swing at David's head put an end to the hunter. Barbara described the sound as a pumpkin or some other kind of gourd exploding on concrete. I just can't. With his friend dead, Brian made a run for it. He didn't make it far before the Duvalls and their friends caught up with him. Hauling him back to David's body, they mocked him for peeing his pants before beating him to death. Barbara scrambled back home unnoticed, or so she thought. Later that night, the Duvalls showed up at her door. Pigs gotta eat too, they told her. After Barbara's statement in 2003, police believed they had finally enough to take JR and Coco to trial, despite the lack of bodies or the men's Bronco. None of Brian or David's belongings had ever been located either, but other witnesses came forward telling police how the Duvalls had bragged about killing the hunters, chopping them up, and feeding them to their pigs. The girlfriend of JR's son came forward too, telling investigators that JR told her how he put the hunters' bodies in a wood chipper, tossed the remains in his pig pen, and told her the same would happen to her if she ever left his son. Left and right, those who knew the Duvalls started coming forward, like Coco's girlfriend from the time, a local who saw another Duvall brother driving the missing Bronco a few days after the murder. They all implicated JR and Coco. I just completely took a whole word out. I don't understand. In October 2003, the men were tried for the murders of David and Brian. JR and Coco claimed they were innocent, going so far as to say they had never even met the hunters. The jury doubted it. The Duvall brothers were convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. To this day, neither the bodies nor the Bronco have ever been recovered. The other men believed to be involved in the brutal killings have not been charged. So, as we close this chapter, we are reminded of the darkest depths of the human psyche, the resilience of those who survive, and the dedication of those who bring justice to the world. So, on that note, you already know, I would put these guys up there with, who was another one that liked to chop people up? Oh, what's his name? I can picture his Ed Gein, because I talked about him too. I talked about Ed Gein before. I'm pretty sure. I don't think I did a whole story about him, but I've talked about him, right? And I'm just like Ed Gein. So I would put these guys up there with them. I mean, they weren't, wearing the parts and making furniture and whatnot, but they were cutting it up and they were feeding it to pigs. And they think that Ed Gein was eating people too. So I don't know. Oh, and Jeffrey Dahmer. How could I forget about him? The show is great. I don't know if you guys watched it, but I watched the whole season. And I learned so much. A lot I probably didn't need to know, but it's not going to go nowhere. It's just going to stay in here now. But, anyways, I can't believe that it's taken me, fourth week of January to have a crime story. Well, no, I guess I did the Inhuman Monster. I forgot about that one. Well, this one's probably worse, though. Inhuman Monster was right by me. And honestly, this is worse. Like, they got killed with a metal baseball bat, beat to death, put into a wood chipper, and fed to pigs. Well, that's way worse than what the fuck I'm going through right now, right? So, and that's what I'm doing this for. So I'm like, yeah, my shit's nothing. The fuck? Anyways, on that note, I would like to know what you guys think of this. Like, what's your thoughts of the Duvall brothers? Have you heard of them before? Do you know of anybody that's kind of like them that they're not like well known? They're like, they're bad, but not everybody's heard of them. I'd like to hear about them too if you guys know any stories about people like that. Um, I do have some ideas. Unfortunately, because of the whole car thing, I don't get to do what I wanted to do this week, but it's fine. We'll get to it eventually. It's life. But, anyways, I keep doing this. I always do. And it's because I don't have a script for the end. If I had a script for the end, too, we would be fucking great. But I just want you to know I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to me. Thanks for sitting and hearing these horrible stories with me, and maybe it's helping you get out of your head too. I don't know. That's what I'm doing this for. I like doing this. Gets me out of my head. I don't think about shit then. And if you liked this video right here, give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, go ahead and subscribe. I always look for new friends. Always. I'm so excited to have so many new friends. And if you ever see me out in public, please give a girl a hug. I could really use a hug. It's rough out in the retail world right now. It's rough. Come give your girl a hug if you're out and about and you see me. All right? Because I could really use one. And I hope you guys have a great night. Thanks again. I appreciate it. Have a great one. Bye.